Hey, you guys, I'm Ashley.
And I'm Liz. Welcome to the Besties in the Books podcast.
Ooh, welcome.
Welcome in for a spoiler-free episode.
Yeah.
All about some of our favorite creatures.
Yes.
Vampires. We are talking all about vampires today.
Fall vibes. We're getting you in the mood.
Yep.
We're doing it.
We're doing it. Well, because here's the thing. It's October. It's Halloween season. Yeah. It's spooky season. We're reading Twilight.
Yeah.
You know, we're getting...
For the first time.
For the first time, both of us.
As adults.
Yep. So, our first mini-sode for Twilight comes out on October 25th. So keep an eye out for that. We're going to be releasing those on Fridays. So we just kind of wanted to dive into a topic that we thought was really interesting. And just like probably a lot of topics, it only got more interesting the more we started looking into it. So we're going to share kind of like, why vampires? Like, why out of all the monsters are vampires so popular? Where did that come from?
Yeah.
And where is it going?
Yeah.
You know?
Where did it come from?
Where did it come from and where did it go?
Halloween. Vampires in literature, vampires in popular media, movies, music. They're everywhere.
Yep.
So let's talk about them.
Yeah, so let's talk about them. It's like, we're diving into history, we're diving into the lore, and, as we've joked about and said in the past, I did a fair amount of research here, but guys, we're cramming all of this into one episode, and we're just talking about vampires. We're having a good old time gearing up to watch Twilight, to watch and read Twilight. So, don't take it all too seriously, and learn a little bit about vampires. And if the information's wrong, it's probably because I got it from Wikipedia, so just deal with it.
Hey, well, I feel like I could say this now because we read the first book, but you're kind of taking a page. You're being a little Bella Swan,
Yeah.
You're going on to the Googles, or as she said, her favorite search engine.
Yep.
And she's just bombarded with all this vampire information.
Dude.
Has to kind of pick through and sift through.
Yep.
And that's kind of what we did too, kind of just figuring it out, figuring out where some inspiration came, how it translates, and why. Why is it a thing?
Why did we grow up with vampires everywhere?
Everywhere.
Yeah. Just you look around, there's vampires
and
everywhere.
And how it's kind of morphed from the feelings of vampires too.
Yeah,
I find that interesting.
Absolutely.
Personally.
So before we get into that, we just wanted to say thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
You guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and your book to come and hang out with us here on Tuesdays or whatever day of the week that you have time to just listen. Thank you. It means so much to us.
We appreciate
Make sure to follow, like, and subscribe anywhere you like to listen to your favorite podcast, including YouTube. You can come hang out with us visually there. Pop us on your TV. I don't know. Just hang out.
Yeah.
Have a good time. Just chill. We're at Besties in the Books podcast everywhere, including TikTok and Instagram, where you can kind of, join us in our fun polls that we do and
Twilight
crowdsourcing, Twilight updates, find out what you guys want to talk about, hear about, listen about. I don't know.
We love
all
it.
Things.
And
we love it.
We're at Besties in the Book Club. If you want to go read Twilight with us, all of our book clubs are up for Twilight right now. So go hop on that. Yep.
Yeah, I'm having a good time with it.
Me
I got
too.
a little taster, you guys. It's so chill.
Yeah.
Such a chill book.
I'm really enjoying it. I'm officially on book 2 right now. Like, I'm starting it tonight. And so far, so good. I don't want to give too much away because obviously we'll be talking about it later. But yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. So there's that.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we get into why vampires, I just wanted to give some article credits, specifically one to The Origins of the Female Vampire in Literature and Art by Lauren E. Williams. So I used that article quite a bit. I'm actually just going to read a little excerpt from it later, too, because I was like, there's no point in me completely why am I going to reinvent the wheel? Lauren already did it. We're just going to, we're going to give her some credit and we're going to talk about the origins of the female vampire a little bit. I got other information from, obviously, Wikipedia, from entertainmentweekly.com, which was weird, but hey, they had a good article.
Yeah. Entertainment, how it translates.
Yeah. And then from history.com, which is like History Channel stuff. So that was actually really interesting and useful as well. So if you guys are curious about where I got my information, that's where from. But obviously there's a billion places to find vampire info, okay? So why don't we just kick it off with a fave or fail before we get into the nitty-gritty of it. But let's do a fave and fail vampire edition today, shall we?
We shall.
Okay. So, do you want to go first or do you want me to go first today?
Well, let me just say this. Sorry if you can hear my vampire dog.
Your vampire dog?
I don't know. She vampire related. I don't know. She's hanging out next to me and she's playing. So if you can hear that background noise, I apologize.
I cannot.
We got to do what we got to do.
I can't hear it.
You can't. They might.
Yeah,
this mic is pretty strong.
Yeah.
So you the listeners, sorry if you hear some rumbling and tumbling. That's not my tummy. That is my dog playing with her toys. So sorry about that. But my favorite vampire thing that just always sticks out to me, that I always think of every single time vampires are brought up, I gotta give a shout out to my favorite band, My Chemical Romance. The song Vampires Will Never Hurt You.
There you go.
Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. So if you haven't heard that yet, you want some nice music in your ears, put it on. Listen to it on repeat like I do for the rest of my life until I'm in the senior home, and I'll still listen to it. So
we get to see MCR in less than 2 weeks.
We'll be there right now, I think. Well, this week that we're posting this.
Yeah.
It's that week. We're freaking out. Maybe the week after. Maybe we already saw him, actually.
Oh, my God. It's now in the past, in the future.
It's my first time seeing them. They're probably not going to play that song because that's their first album, and I love that album.
It's so good. I know. Well, we'll report back. We'll let you guys know. Yeah. Hopefully, because they're supposed to play Black Parade in its entirety, but we'll see how that goes. I think they've got to sprinkle some other stuff in there.
You have to. They're headliners. They got a long time.
They got to. So anyways, that's a good one. Great job. Yeah. So what's your vampire fail?
Vampire fail is that I have not watched, apparently, enough vampire movies.
Yeah.
I was like going through the list. I was like, I haven't watched any of this. I think the top of my list needs to be Interview with a Vampire because it scared me as a kid.
Oh,
so
did it? You're like Brad Pitt.
Well, I never saw it. But
Tom Cruise.
I saw previews and it freaked me out, So
yeah,
I didn't even know Tom Cruise was in it. I know nothing about it.
Tom Cruise, he's too pale.
Now,
he's too pale and too fast.
Yeah, so
no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We have to go back. We have to go back to Tom Cruise, too pale, too fast. Because
I
now,
didn't even know he was in it.
Well, because now all I can picture is because that's my favorite part in any Tom Cruise movie is the scene where it's above. And they show, they're like above. It's like almost like a drone shot. And they pan down. And it's just Tom Cruise pumping those arms and running as fast as he can possibly run. What if he did that in an Interview with a Vampire? And he was just like a super old vampire running that fast. It paints a scary picture. No wonder you were afraid as a child. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt was
because I feel
amazing,
like as children, though, vampire stuff was still scary.
Yeah, I don't know.
When we were like kids.
I was never. I will say I was scared of Nosferatu, that vampire, the black and white silent movie vampire as a kid. That freaked me out super bad. But Interview with the Vampire, no, I always loved that, even as a kid. So I don't know. Take from that what you will.
My fail is I haven't watched it yet, and I think it's time. Maybe when you're here.
Wait, you've never watched Interview with a Vampire? I thought you said you did watch it and you were afraid of it.
No, my fail is that I've never watched it.
Oh, I thought you said you were scared of it.
I mean, I was as a kid when it came out, so I didn't watch it.
Oh, got it.
It was vampires. Yeah, and in my mind is that guy that you just said I can't pronounce, Nosferatu, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
His fangs are so gross. They're right in the front, too.
Scary.
Rabbit teeth.
Yeah,
creepy
it's super
rabbit.
creepy.
And his ears and eyes and everything about him. So, yeah, I never watched it. My fail is that I've never watched it, and I still haven't watched it.
Wait.
So I think it's time to watch it.
Wait, okay, so have you watched Queen of the Damned?
That's my favorite.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay,
ever.
So that is technically a sequel to Interview with the Vampire.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Kanan didn't know that either. Oh my god, yeah.
Oh, then that just makes it even more that I need to watch it. I know nothing about Interview with the Vampire except Brad Pitt's in it, so that's it. That's as far as it goes.
Yep, that's all you need to know. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't watch Queen of the Damned until high school. And I thought it was a standalone. I watched that a billion times. Love it.
I mean, technically it is a standalone, but it's same. It's just we'll watch it. You'll see.
Same world.
Interview with the Vampire is a lot slower and it's a lot older, so we'll probably fall asleep 3 nights in a row trying to watch it. But it's still it's really good. It's a classic. It's a classic.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I had to ask about Queen of the Damned because my fail has to do with that.
Oh.
Okay, so we'll start with that because it's super embarrassing, and then we'll end on the high note. Okay, so I had not, this is like a repressed memory. Like, I had not thought of this until we started reading Twilight. And then I was like, and I did, this is my first time reading Twilight, so it's not like Twilight itself triggered this memory. It was just like my obsession with vampires that I had kind of like, because of this, I think, stuffed down inside myself and then like blacked out because of the trauma.
Oh, yikes.
I'm being dramatic. Okay, so my high school boyfriend, I was so obsessed with Queen of the Damned when it came out in high school that I kid you not, he started, I can't even believe I'm putting this on the podcast. Okay, this is so embarrassing. Okay, he started wearing vampire fangs and like pleather, like black pants, like specifically for me.
Okay, I remember the black pants. Was this behind a closed door situation? Because I don't remember the fangs.
Not really. Like, yes and no. Like, yeah, but also he would do it in public sometimes too.
Oh, huh.
And not like just on Halloween. Like, if it was Halloween, fine. But no, this was like a regular occurrence.
I mean, this was high emo times. Like, nobody would bat an eye. So, yeah.
But, like, that's just, it's shameful. I'm embarrassed.
Is that your fail or your fave?
That's my fail! That's my fail! It's embarrassing, but it's a part of who I am. I love that I didn't remember that I had actually participated in that until I read Twilight, and it like reignited this memory.
Now, did you encourage it, or is it something that he just?
No, I literally was like, you should do this. Like, well, do me a solid, do this for me, and he did. So I guess good for him. But also, come on.
Have some standards.
Yeah,
have some self-respect.
Some dignity. Have you no shame, sir? So,
high school's all about learning and growing and all that.
I mean, the way I had like the biggest crush in the entire universe on Davey Havok, it was very Davey Havok adjacent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
for
that's
sure.
The thing.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's my fail for sure, but also funny. So I guess it's fine.
Yeah. It's all good.
My fave is that I became so obsessed with Interview with the Vampire and Queen of the Damned that it encouraged me to start reading the Anne Rice books. So I started reading Anne Rice pretty early, which, I mean, could be considered problematic depending on how you feel about that. But I'm glad that I did. I don't feel like that, I don't know, messed me up at all. But her depiction of vampires is definitely more on like the sexy side. So it definitely got me a little, I would say as far as books go, that was probably my introduction to monster romance.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you're counting like the little kids Beauty and the Beast book or something like that. But yeah my actual first monster, like adult monster romance would probably be like in that whole Interview with the Vampire, the Vampire Lestat, like all those kind of that world.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. That's my fave. So let's see here. Where should we start? We should start with, what is a vampire? Shouldn't we? I feel like why not? I mean, honestly, like, I had a really good time doing this research because I think it's important to note that the myth of the vampire, or whatever you want to call it, actually exists like across cultures all over the world, and it's just called different things, or is slightly different depending on the lore and mythology. So we're going to be focusing on, like, obviously certain types of vampires as they progressed into, like, the Edward Cullens of the world, for example. But it's important to note that, we're not trying to only look at it from one perspective. There are a lot of different perspectives when it comes to this kind of stuff. But
sure.
I will say, okay, so just if we're looking at actual definitions, so the Oxford Dictionary definition of a vampire is a corpse supposed in European folklore to leave its grave at night to drink the blood of the living by biting their necks with long pointed canine teeth. So
fun times.
Pretty much what we thought,
Yeah.
And that is, it specifically says in European folklore. So then you have variations of that definition. So like Merriam-Webster says, the reanimated body of a dead person believed to come from the grave at night and suck the blood of persons asleep. That's what it says. And then good old Wikipedia says it's a mythical creature that subsists by feeding on the vital essence, generally in the form of blood of the living. In European folklore, vampires are undead humanoid creatures that often visited loved ones and caused mischief or deaths in the neighborhoods which they inhabited while they were alive.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so a little bit more in depth, depending, on what definition you're using. So, I already mentioned that, there's different variations of this kind of myth depending on what culture you're looking at. So the ones that came up when I was just doing my basic research about that there was a few. So I just wrote a few examples here. The Pish Taco, I don't know how you say that, guys, sorry, from Peru is a vampire legend about, quote, wealthy men who capture native, slit their throats, and hang them from the ceiling. So super dark.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's kind of their, according to the interwebs, like their version of like what a quote unquote vampire would be. There's the Vitalis, which comes from Sanskrit folklore, who are ghoul-like beings that inhabit corpses and hang upside down from trees in cemeteries and cremation grounds.
Oh, kind of bat-like, if you will.
Exactly. And then there's another myth that in some Slavic and Chinese traditions, if a corpse was jumped over by an animal, it could reanimate into a blood-drinking monster.
Oh, wow. That's wildly specific.
Wildly specific.
As if someone saw it happen.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
And then I put a little note on here, that then there's a lot of like vampire adjacent creatures or myths.
Yeah.
So like
cryptides and such.
Yeah, exactly. So like for me, I grew up with like, I have a Mexican mom. So I grew up with the chupacabra myth. So for you guys who don't know, it's basically like a little like creature that specifically drinks the blood of livestock. So supposedly not humans, but I looked it up and they were supposedly originally seen by Puerto Rican farmers. So that's where that came from. So there's a whole bunch of different kinds of, like lore about vampires. Yeah, which I thought was cool. But I think that for us, we usually picture more of the, like the Brad Pitt in Interview with a Vampire style vampire at this point.
Yeah. Well, I think we've definitely seen a mix throughout media, but a lot of it is a blend of all of those things.
Yeah.
Kind of like a pick and choose from each culture of the different things to blend into one vampire being, depending on the media you're consuming, the story that they're telling.
Well, yeah, and there's like, the reason why I didn't choose to include this is because, it's like, how do you kill a vampire? You know what I mean? It's like there's so many different ways depending on the different myths that you're looking at, or like, how do you make a vampire? That's also different depending on the myths that you're looking at. So it varies. Yeah. And I think that you're absolutely right, where it's like, it's kind of just a convergence of like all these things that just have mixed together at this point.
Yeah.
Into what we now know of vampires.
Yeah. Interesting.
So this is the part that I thought was super cool and weird. Okay, so I just put on here, where the F did vampires come from? Literally, like, where did these myths come from? And so I found...
Especially when it's found across the world. That always fascinates me. Like pyramids across the world. Like, pictures of dragons, like, across the world. So vampires being a reoccurring theme in all different cultures.
Totally.
No matter on geography.
Yeah, like where, like literally where did it come from?
Yeah.
And so some of the explanations I found just from like different people who have done research on this was so cool. So some of the explanations were, some believe that the idea of vampires resulted from people in pre-industrial societies attempting to explain the process of death and decomposition. So, when a body dies, it does weird stuff, right? And so they didn't really know scientifically like how to explain that. And so some people think that that's kind of where this idea of like an undead or coming back from the dead kind of, I guess you could say like monster would come from.
Interesting.
So this one was kind of interesting too. Very, very Halloween-y, if you will. Some believe legends may have been influenced by the somewhat frequent occurrence of people being buried alive.
Yeah, unfortunately, that used to happen.
Yeah, kind of frequently, honestly.
We know about the bells. We learned about that back in high school. It's like there was, I don't remember where it was, but they used to put bells in with the line connecting to the coffin so people could ring it if they woke up dead, buried, but alive.
Yeah.
Like, that's a problem. Maybe just don't bury them quite yet, you know?
Just let it ride
That's something
for
that
a
happens
second.
so often. Well, we got to figure out a solution for this in case they wake up.
Let's just have a bell.
Yeah. They didn't check heartbeats yet? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Because, yeah, they would see, sometimes if a body was exhumed, they would see claw marks on the inside of the coffin, blood, things like that. And so...
Terrifying.
So, obviously, it was a vampire.
Things that make you glad you're born in the times that you are.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Totally. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yep.
So another, this is pretty classic, a way for people to explain clusters of deaths from unidentifiable or mysterious illnesses.
Yeah.
So a bunch of people start dying of something. You don't know how to explain it. Well, obviously it's got to be some creature,
Yeah. Vampire.
Yep. So those are kind of more of the actual physical potential explanations. There was also psychological explanations that were kind of interesting. So, this idea of longing for loved ones to come back from the dead somehow. So kind of conjuring up this idea of a vampire to kind of give that some possibility.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this was really interesting. We'll talk about it a little bit more. Some argue that when quote unquote more normal sex acts are repressed forms may be expressed. So basically if you're living in a Puritan society, then they would say something like a vampire biting you would be considered something like oral sadism. So people are going to start fixating on that kind of stuff because regular sex acts are so frowned upon kind of a thing. So people go to extremes kind of a thing. Which there's probably something with that, I'd imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then this one was cool. A political explanation. It's symbolic of the upper classes exploiting poor people for their labor. Literally, used as a literary device, sucking all of the, life out of
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, that makes sense too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So had you really thought about any of that before? I had never thought about any of that. Really?
No, not really. Maybe thinking about where they come from, but not enough to look into it,
Yeah.
Where's the origin of all of this? Yeah.
It kind of reminded me almost of Salem witch trials, how things could be explained in such logical terms now, but back then it was they were eating bad grain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's they were burying people alive. So
when you're talking about it, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, obviously vampires. Yeah. Yeah, where a lot of, I think, these mythical creatures and cryptids come from is a state of lack of knowledge and science, and also huge imaginations.
Yeah.
I think about when we were reading about the Salem witch trials and kind of studying that, of imagine what it would be like. And even it can relate to vampires. You have no technology, you're a Puritan, you move into this new world with new creatures, new trees, new food, everything's new.
Yeah.
And you can only imagine what's in the dark.
Yeah.
Because there's no street lights. You got the moonlight. That's it. Your imagination has to run away with you. You know? Like you said, finding your cattle with bite marks that don't seem like a wolf, or maybe you've never seen a wolf before.
Yeah.
And you're like, what are these crazy bite marks? And what, my cattle's getting eaten, or maybe it got away, but it has bite marks, all those things that you have to figure out. As this world is so unexplored that
it could be anything.
Things are born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
things like this.
I mean, we're saying this too. We're obviously now we're apt to use things like logic and science to rationalize things away. But truly, what if vampires are real, guys? Think about it.
I mean, yeah, they hide stuff all the time from people.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but it's I feel like the older I get, the more I'm like, would that really be the craziest thing?
Nowadays, no. Would we bat an eye anymore?
I know.
We had such crazy last years.
Yeah. So when did vampires first start appearing in literature? Okay.
Yes.
So I think this is really important to note that when I went to do my deep dive on this, kind of the same information was popping up time and time again, but it's not the whole story. Okay. So we're going to go through what pops up, and then I'm going to talk about when I decided to, as you would say, ask the other question, what ended up popping up. Okay. So when did vampires first start appearing in literature? According to just Google, Wikipedia, all the majors, the 18th century. So you kind of have like a series of like vampire poems mainly that comes out kind of leading up to, you know, Bram Stoker's famous book Dracula coming out in 1897. So in 1748, you had this guy named Heinrich August Ossenfelder. Okay, he was German. He had a poem, The Vampire. It was one of the first works of art to feature a vampire. So the poem is about a man who threatens to visit a pious maiden nightly, drink her blood, and prove his teaching is better than her mother's Christianity.
Interesting.
So clearly there's a lot of stuff going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of symbolism, if you will. So in 1801, you have this guy named Robert Southey. He comes out with a poem called Thalaba the Destroyer, which is considered the first piece of vampire literature in English.
Oh, okay.
So then you've got guys like Lord Byron writing poems about vampires in 1813. In 1819, you have John Pilidori, I think that's how you say his name, who wrote The Vampire, the first vampire short story published in English. The story is about a mysterious aristocrat named Lord Ruthven who seduces young women and drains their blood, and apparently it was inspired by Lord Byron in his real life. So cool.
What does he know?
Yeah, exactly.
Is it fiction or is it stranger than fiction?
Yeah. So those were kind of like the notables that I found when, you know, you're talking about when did vampires really start like popping up in short stories, poems, books.
Yeah.
But really things exploded after Dracula came out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's interesting. I feel like just like witches, you know, witch culture, it kind of like has its rises and peaks. Like it kind of like looks like in this early 1800s takes it by storm, like as fast as something like that could take over back then, you know, the hype.
Yeah.
Coming from the 1750s, probably taking that long to come over to the States, you know, from Germany, and then like just taking off in like this probably vampire craze. Almost Edward versus Jacob craze back then, you know, and then obviously the late 80s, early 90s, we saw it. And then the Twilight craze too. So it's like coming in clusters, kind of like the witch trials, you know, and the, what is it that we were talking about? Like the occult, you know, and satanic panic, kind of those things.
Yeah, like it comes and goes depending on like what's popular in the media at the time, and then kind of the backlash about that too. Yeah. And it's like, I think important to note that it's representative of like what else is happening in society. So, you know, depending on what's going on, you know, whether that has to do with, you know, I think a big piece of it is like the sexual repression of people in certain societies. That probably had a lot to do with it. Or like political unrest would have a lot to do with it. So I thought that was kind of an interesting take on it too. Okay, so that's what you get when you look up when vampires first started appearing in literature. However, that is not true. I lied to you. Everyone's lied to you. Okay, so, and people are probably, you know, like yelling at, you know, the screen or whatever, if you know anything about, and I was actually really surprised because my husband even brought this up without me even prompting him. He was like, well, obviously depictions of vampires have been around since like Egyptian times and stuff, right? And I was like, totally. So I decided to kind of dive into that. And what I thought was interesting is that specifically female vampires have been depicted often in ancient religious artworks dating back as far as 2000 BCE.
Wow.
So mythology has typically defined them by their sexuality and associations with the pagan and evil.
Of course. So just to circle it right back around to the witch trials. Guys, it's all connected in some way. It's all connected.
So just to kind of go back to, you know, what I was mentioning at the beginning, The Origins of the Female Vampire in Literature and Art by Lauren E. Williams. So this article was really super interesting. And I took an excerpt out of here that I wanted to share with you guys because I thought I knew a little bit about this, but I didn't really know. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So two of the earliest examples of female vampires appear in Greek and Judeo-Christian mythology, Lamia and Lilith. While these subjects are often blended into one figure, because most of us, right, have like heard of Lilith, they were at one time considered two individual female vampires known for preying on children and men. The myths of Lamia and Lilith have consistently served as warnings for men to beware, while at the same time presenting a visual object of desire as dangerously beautiful in their ability to entice and ultimately destroy. So it kind of gets into like the history of like why, you know, Lilith or Lamia, whatever you want to call her, essentially ends up seeking revenge, and turning into this monster. Eventually, she garnered the ability to transform herself into a beautiful woman in order to attract and seduce young men. While Lamia did not fit the typical definition of a vampire, an undead creature who lives off of the blood of living beings, she turned to vampirism as an outlet for her grief by destroying other women's children to account for the own loss of her own children. Yeah. Wow. So some of the most popular representations of this type of woman during the 19th century were mythological creatures, vampires, mermaids, and serpent women, whom each attracted male attention in their physical form, but represented a greater danger to Victorian society by symbolizing a powerful woman breaking the confines of the traditional family and church.
Huh. Interesting.
Yes.
Hang on. Why does your shirt right now say Lilith?
Because I decided to wear my vampire sweatshirt for this episode.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so it says...
I didn't know if it was like your hair covering part of it. I was tripping out. Oh, yeah.
No, it says always Lilith, never Eve.
There you go.
There you go.
Wow, I need to read more about that for sure.
Yeah, it's so, you know, it's just as you do, it's a cautionary tale that women will cause the downfall of society.
Yeah, I think it's so
another.
funny. I like that it was like a figure of caution. Like, just, it's pretty, but don't touch. Like,
yeah,
knock it off, you guys. Yeah. Literally, guys. Like, chill out. She'll destroy you. Mm-hmm. So,
chill out. She'll destroy you. But it's because she's unwilling to be confined by, in this case, she's using Victorian society as the standards, but essentially is rebelling against whatever the expectations are, whether that has to do with family life, the church, etc.
Yeah.
So, which I think is a theme throughout history.
Yeah.
And that's why I thought it was interesting, too, that she talks about not just vampires, but also, you know, mermaids, serpent women.
So kind of sirens, you know?
Yeah. Sirens,
which have
Medusa.
come up through a lot of... Sirens are almost like a vampiric mermaid, too.
Yeah, totally.
So, and those are throughout all different cultures among the world, too. Crazy. It makes you think. It does.
It makes you think. Yes. So that's to take it way, way, way back. But, you know, our idea of when the modern vampire was born pretty much happened with Bram Stoker's Dracula. So we'll kind of go back to that. Yeah. But I did think it was really, really important to note that vampires have actually been around and the idea of them a lot longer. And I think that it does have a really interesting root in... I don't even really know how to say this. Basically, it's a lot more... There's a lot of, like, gender issues going on there.
Yeah,
that I think are important to talk about. Yeah. How women represent society. In a lot of ways, too.
And it's interesting that it switched from that to then men, typically, mostly, Dracula, to damsels in distress and poor, gentle little lambs.
It was a very big switch. It was a very big switch.
Jarring switch. Wow. Interesting. Huh.
Well, because I think it takes, and this is my own 2 cents. This is not based in any type of research at all. But I think that the reason for that being that, you know, what's more dangerous to, whatever you want to call it, a patriarchal or misogynistic society than a woman who is depicted like Lilith, for example. So rather than focus on that, why don't we make her the damsel in distress and make the vampire a man? That way he inherently has the
more
control.
Power, more control, is centralized. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So I think that is super interesting to kind of break down.
Yeah.
I could see why there's so much research about this too, because it's just you could go real deep into a lot of that.
For sure.
That's why we said, guys, we're doing one episode on this, but you know, if this helps you go down the rabbit hole, go down the rabbit hole. It's great.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so just for the sake of this and kind of like catching us up with modern days, so let's say here we are with, Dracula coming out. So where did that idea come from? Like, where did he get his inspiration? So what I found is to create his immortal anti-hero, Count Dracula, Stoker drew on popular Central European folk tales about Nosferatu, which is the creepy vampire that we were talking about before, but also seems to have been inspired by historical accounts of the 15th century Romanian prince Vlad Tepes, I don't know how you say his last name, or Vlad the Impaler. So I think a lot of us have heard about this.
Yeah. Creep. What a creep.
What a creep. I didn't really know a whole lot about him. I just knew he was like a bad guy. Like a bad guy, but like in medievalish times, but that's all I really knew.
Yeah.
But I went to the History Channel's website and they had a whole bunch of information on him.
Yeah, he was a bad dude.
He was a bad dude. What they had to say, which I thought was kind of crazy. So he was born in Transylvania as the second son of the nobleman Vlad II Dracul. He took the name Dracula, meaning son of Dracul, which makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
When he was initiated into a secret order of Christian knights known as the Order of the Dragon, which I thought was, I mean, that makes him sound kind of cool.
That sounds kind of cool. Yeah, I'd read that. I'd read that book.
Yeah. As the ruler of Wallachia. Sorry, guys, I'm going to butcher all these names.
Oh, hang on.
So now
you skipped over. In Romanian, Dracul means dragon.
Oh,
Also,
I did.
That's cool. That's crazy. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Well.
I feel like it's probably in a movie or something. I just didn't think about it. You know what I mean? Like they probably said it and I was like, okay, whatever. And didn't remember. So he was ruler of, what is now part of Romania. He became notorious for the brutal tactics he employed against his enemies, including torture, mutilation, and mass murder. Though he didn't shy away from disembowelment, decapitation, or boiling or skinning his victims alive, his preferred method was impalement, or driving a wooden stake through their bodies and leaving them to die of exposure.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you do. It's pretty gross. So here's where it gets particularly gruesome. So during his campaign against Ottoman invaders in 1462, Vlad reportedly had as many as 20,000 victims impaled on the banks of the Danube. I don't know how you say that. Captured by Hungarian forces and imprisoned, he was finally able to regain his seat in 1476, only to be killed in battle the same year. So he met his demise.
All right.
However, this is where it might circle right back around a vampire, okay? Because right now he's just like crazy psychopath serial killer.
Got the stake to the heart, though,
Yeah,
Got
stake to
some
the
stuff in
heart. It's true. It's true. So some particularly gruesome accounts claim that Vlad liked to dine among the impaled bodies of his victims and would even dip his bread into their blood. These gory details, as well as his legally adopted name Dracula and his birthplace of Transylvania, have convinced many scholars that Vlad the Impaler provided partial inspiration for Stoker's famous vampire.
You gotta see that. For sure.
Yeah. I mean, if he's eating blood and staking people and... Yeah.
What if a serial killer was a dictator? That equals Vlad.
There you go.
There you go. Vlad the Impaler.
Equals a vampire.
Equals vampire. Equals Dracula. Well, he's getting away with it. That's nuts. Whoa. Another reason why I'm glad we're born in the time that we are.
Jeez, right?
Don't want to be there. Don't want to be there at that time, especially to be his enemy. Yikes.
He dipping his bread in your blood.
Whoa, big yikes. Wow. Calm down, guys.
Calm down. I know. So, all right. So then to fast forward into like our modern idea of like vampires, like, okay, so one of the questions I had was like, why are they always like depicted as being super sexy?
Now. Yeah.
Yeah, because like they were like scary monsters. They were kind of more of like the Nosferatu.
Yeah.
Right? But then somehow they've like, okay, so here we have Nosferatu and here we have Brad Pitt. How did we get from point A to point B?
Yeah. Right.
You know what I
It's
mean?
something with the neck. I think it's something with the teeth and the neck. That's my only guess. And coming in at the night, and someone saw that and was like, smash.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
And then the rest is history and current times of vampires. Is like, that's my guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, so, I looked up a lot of research about this topic too, because there's a bunch out there. Yeah. And that was the first thing that came up. So there is a ton of research that discusses penetration of the teeth and exchange of bodily fluids being obviously symbolic of sex.
That is very descriptive.
But I mean, you know, it's like you have to describe it that way because I feel like it would help someone who maybe was having a hard time understanding that concept to really like
when you put it that way, well, that is very sexual.
it's like it's a symbol of that. Yeah. You know what I mean? That I feel like largely came out of sexually repressed societies.
Yeah.
Because it's also like this idea that, you know, women are supposed to be these pious beings. And so if you can blame it on a vampire biting you.
Submissive.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, you know, some other people have said that they have come to represent our fear of sex. So like taboo acts, unavailable or denied sexuality, sex outside of marriage. So basically being able to say like, oh, I have all these desires, but they're not actually mine. They're of the devil or of something evil.
Yeah.
You know, and kind of like blaming it on that.
Yeah.
Other people say like it's simply because they're human-like. They're a monster that's human-like.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so it's harder to have a crush on, you know, I don't know, whatever, a werewolf in his werewolf form as opposed to like a vampire who just looks like, you know,
mostly human. Yeah.
Mostly human.
Yeah.
They're described often as beautiful because they lure their prey.
Yeah.
So there's that. They have eternal youth.
Yeah.
People like the lure of the unknown. They have magical powers lots of times. So, you know, these would be all the reasons why, like, a lot of people would argue that they're
they really
the more...
took that and ran with it, though. Because, like,
you
go from, what is his name? Nefarious? How do you say it?
Nosferatu.
Nefarious. Nosferatu, who's an old, gross, creepy guy. To, like, let's paint him up a little bit. Let's age him down.
To Alexander Skarsgård.
Yeah.
The jump is huge.
Yeah, that's a big
It's
big
a
jump.
huge jump. You know, but it happened over a long time.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing, too.
So I would say the transition was probably, the mid-90s that we saw?
Yeah.
Going from creepy vampire, like, old black and white films, and then they kind of was quiet for a while, and then you have Interview with the Vampire, and later Queen of the Damned, and all of those. And the vampire culture strikes again!
Vampire culture strikes again. New and improved. It's just, it's a very big jump from, creepy vampire to True Blood, you know? But here we are. Well,
honestly, I accept it with open arms.
I do too. I feel like that's fair. The last thing that I wanted to mention, though, and I feel like this kind of wraps up the, like, research portion of this podcast, is that my main takeaway was that male vampires steal your wives with their sexuality and corrupt nature. Okay? Whereas female vampires are the downfall of society itself.
Oh.
So there's a big difference there. It's like there's a big difference between corrupting society and just corrupting, you know, like...
Wow.
Basically, like I said, stealing your wives. I said that to be funny, but you guys get what I mean. So, you know, just some nuggets there. Just some food for thought.
Well, I take personal offense to that history.
Me too.
How dare you?
How dare you,
Rude.
everyone.
Very rude.
Well, now, here we go. You know, it's like, well, you know, if we turn into vampires, we might be the downfall of society itself. But at the end of the day, we get to enjoy things like True Blood and Twilight. So we'll accept it.
Yeah, maybe not so open arms, but okay, fine.
We'll let it slide. Just kidding.
We'll let it slide now. Really. The in-between, though, I don't let it slide. But now, okay. All right.
So, all right, let's see here.
Let's talk a little bit about vampires in our own lives and what we account for, you know? What was your first recollection of vampires in pop culture?
I feel like, you know, honestly, when I was thinking about this, I feel like there's got to be something like back before this, but the first vampire movie that I remember watching was Interview with the Vampire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
I feel like for some reason, because like, no, I guess there was also, Kanan brought this up, there's Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but here's the thing, I was not allowed to watch that. So I had heard of it, but I had never seen it. So like the first thing I actually saw that got me interested in vampires would have been Interview with the Vampire.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't you know, ask me why I was allowed to watch Interview with the Vampire and not Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Brad Pitt, probably. Yeah, probably. Because it was Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. I'm sure your mom loves him.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, it's fine. But you can't watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
But a woman, again.
Well, she's not a vampire, though, right? I mean, I never watched it. I know. She just kills vampires.
But still.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's powerful.
Yeah, she is powerful.
Okay. Yeah, the vampires in that show were gross, I believe. Mm-hmm. So, you know, more demonic looking. Mm-hmm. So my first recollection of vampires, my oldest brother was super into vampire stuff, and I think he's read all the Anne Rice books. Mm-hmm. So he was more like the rebel of the family. So I didn't like get around to reading it because I was like, oh no, I don't know if I'm supposed to read that stuff, back then. And then Anne the Vampire, I remember commercials and stuff about it, but it freaked me out. I'm sure it was forbidden in my house unless my older brother was a lot older than me, so he was allowed to watch it.
Yeah.
And Buffy, we didn't have TV during that time, so it didn't come up, And I think I tried watching it when I was in high school. Like, this is so cheesy. Sorry, guys, but it is. I never got into it. So I wasn't like super into vampire stuff until probably like the recent Carissa Broadbent books.
Oh, okay.
So
cool.
Then it really other than Queen of the Damned, which I watched a million times, it was crazy because when you had posed the question for me to think over for this episode and ask about like favorite shows and movies, it's like, I've seen one vampire movie. I've seen Queen of the Damned. Is that right? And I'm like going through. I'm like, I think so.
That's interesting.
That's so weird. I mean, I've seen the Twilight movies 10 years ago, and they are what they are.
Yeah.
But other than that, like I couldn't think of any. I never got into any of the shows. I never watched. I didn't have HBO when True Blood was out, so I didn't see them. What was the other popular one? Vampire Diaries?
Yeah.
Is CW. So
I never watched that.
I tended to not like CW shows for their cheesiness. Some people love it, and that's fine. But so no, I never really got into anything else.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay. So what were your favorite shows and movies? I kind of jumped around there.
Yeah. I mean, I loved True Blood. Okay. Like I dressed up like Sookie for Halloween. I was obsessed. Okay. So like in high school, that was my like Anne Rice obsessed phase. So obsessed with Interview with the Vampire and all the Anne Rice books and Queen of the Damned. Okay. So that was high school. College age, kind of middle times. That was 100% True Blood. Like, I loved that show. I need to rewatch it real bad. Like, I want to rewatch it super bad. And then I'd say now, like, I want to rewatch, I'm like, when did I watch Twilight? I watched Twilight during 2020, during the lockdown. But I didn't particularly like them. And so that's why I'm having fun on this journey because we're reading the book. So we'll kind of see how that pans out when I rewatch the movies here soon. But yeah, I'd say my favorites were always like the Anne Rice, like universe of vampires and then True Blood universe of vampires. Cause I never watched Vampire Diaries. I never watched Vampire Academy. Like I didn't with any of that. I just watched, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, Dracula for the first time. I had never seen that. And
what was that John Carpenter one that your husband made you watch?
That was terrible.
I've seen parts of that too. That was terrible. So that counts, I guess, for me.
Yeah, I didn't even finish that. That was horrible. But I did enjoy Bram Stoker's Dracula with Keanu Reeves. I really liked that a lot. It was very weird, and I didn't understand what was going on half the time, but it was entertaining. I saw the Underworld movies. I really liked Kate Beckinsale in those back in high school.
I meant to watch those. I never got around to it. Oh, you know what I did see? Of course. The only other vampire movie I remember watching, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer.
Oh my God, I never saw that.
It's Abraham Lincoln.
That's so funny.
I remember it being like, it's kind of like Snakes on the Plane. Like it's terrible and hilarious and all of its stupidness. I
love it. Yeah, Ashley, there was a weird rumor that we started in high school that Ashley had a crush on Abraham Lincoln. I don't even remember where that came from.
I love him. He's a great guy,
That's why.
It's because I don't deny my crush. That's why.
So that's where that comes from. Ashley's like, obviously I watched that because of Abe Lincoln.
If I had to be a first lady, Abraham Lincoln.
Okay. All right. That's funny. But yeah, I would say nowadays, like my biggest interest in vampires would be the Crowns of Nyaxia series for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Agreed. You just can't go wrong with those books. They're so dang good. They're just so
Serpent in the Wings of Night. It's such a good blend. Now talking about the history of vampires, it's such a good blend of all the vampires we discussed today.
Of lore, yeah.
You have the different houses and the different feelings that each vampire has take on humanity and everything like that. So if you haven't read Serpent in the Wings of Night yet and you love vampire stuff, guys, read it. Read it and weep.
Yep.
you go.
Super good.
Literally.
So I would say, yeah, my favorite vampire shows, yeah, that pretty much covers it. I always had, like in college, you know, I had the biggest crush on, I was actually an Alcide girly when it came to True Blood, so I had a crush on the werewolf guy, but I have a feeling the second time around that I'm going to like Eric Northman a little bit more. So we'll see how that goes. So I'm like, this is inspiring me to maybe get that started sooner than later.
Yeah, I should probably watch them for the first time finally.
Oh my gosh.
So.
Do you guys want us to watch True Blood? Do you want to watch True Blood with us? Let us know. Are we going to make Ashley watch True Blood? Yes.
Yeah, I think I should after Twilight. We should do it.
Oh my gosh, that would be so fun.
Just add it to our list of
I know.
things that we'll get done.
I know.
Totally.
Oh my gosh. So I think that pretty much covers it. Do you have anything else that you wanted to bring up in relation to vampires and their lore?
Interesting how vampires had their moment in the late 90s time frame, 2000, and then all of a sudden Twilight comes onto the picture and takes the youngins by storm. So now it is diluted a little bit, right? More digestible for the younger audience, not as graphic, you know, not as monstrous, and taken into a way that, you know, kind of did a Harry Potter moment and just the fandom blew up. So that leaves us with our time now to, like we said, we are reading Twilight and we will tell you how we feel about each book and compare it to movies at the end. How did the movies do it justice? All of that. Because it's a fun time right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Is Edward my top choice? Absolutely not. But we're just going to have to live with that.
Right now, it's Team Carlisle for me. What about you?
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and the way it was you that described him as basically like the Witcher with short hair, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Because that's how it was described.
Sold.
It said there. It said Henry Cavill with short hair. In the book. She's ahead of her time.
Yeah.
No.
I'm having a hard time. I'm having a hard time, like pushing
getting the movie
out of my brain because it's like I don't want to be picturing them. Like I don't.
Yeah, I do wish we were reading it for the very first time with a clean slate, but it just can't happen. There's so much like. Even if I didn't see the movies, I've seen so many memes. I've seen so many reels.
Yeah,
it's so iconic. It's the same thing with Harry Potter. Imagine Harry Potter not as Daniel Radcliffe. Yeah. Like you can't.
Yeah, it's hard.
Like, there's literally no way.
Yeah.
So you have the picture painted. But it is enlightening to read it versus having seen it and the things that were changed and different and what's more digestible and not.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, we're finding stuff out.
Okay, so now that we've gotten a really nice history lesson in vampires, should we do a smash or pass?
Yeah. So before we do, I just want to say, again, make sure to follow us on Fable at the Besties and the book club if you want to read Twilight with us, because this is kind of our kickoff episode into that, because on Friday will be our mini episode for our first Twilight read.
Yay.
So, you know, join us if you want to read it. If you don't, whatever, you know, just you know where to find us. But it is time for a smash or pass, and mine is vampire related.
Okay, mine's not, but it's Halloween related.
That works. Mine's also Halloween because it's vampire.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
okay, smash or pass. I'm gonna go.
Okay.
I'm gonna hit you with it. Count Chocula.
I'm gonna say pass because he's too dorky.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I just want to see what the people say. So yeah, it's a pass for me.
Yeah.
But I do love chocolate.
Yeah,
so,
that's nice.
You know, he has that going for him.
But as we learned,
he's lint adjacent.
Yeah, exactly.
Lindor
he's
truffle.
too lint adjacent. It freaks me out.
He's like the cartoon version of the lint guy, Count Chocula.
Wait, did we ever ask people about him?
Yes.
We did?
We did.
Okay, I need to go back.
It's a montage.
So, guys, this is what we're thinking that we might do. We're thinking that, like, we might compile all of our Smash or Pass data into, like, some type of ranking system or chart. So we'll go back and work on that. And then that'll be a good way too for us to like remember who we've done already. You know?
Yeah.
So okay, so anyways, I just rewatched this movie and it was so good. Oh my god, it was so good. It never gets old. Smash or pass, Casper, if you were Christina Ricci.
I would have said smash as a kid. Like, because he had vibes for some reason.
Well, because he was Devin Sawa. Hello.
Yeah, that's probably why. Yeah. But as, like, obviously not as an adult, but like, you know, who I am as a person now, if I was a kid as a person I am now, does that make sense?
No, it doesn't.
If I was who I am,
Okay.
pass, because he's too soft. Well, he literally looks really soft too, because he's all cloudy and soft looking.
Wait.
I pat his head.
Wait,
Oh, cute little guy.
Stop. Okay, stop. So it would be a pass because he's too. Do you?
Like emotionally soft.
Okay, I'm like because he's a ghost. So,
but I sidetracked because he does look soft.
He does
look,
look
because he's very fuzzy looking.
Well, at one point he literally turns himself into a pillow for her.
Oh, so there you go. Yeah.
What if you knew that you would have one night with him until midnight though, where he turns into Devon Sawa?
As a kid, I would have said yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if I was who I am now as a kid, like my personality now, I know I would pass.
Yeah, he's just
So
he's
does that make
he's like
sense?
too mushy for you.
Okay.
Like he gives you the icks.
Yeah, he does.
Okay.
Yeah. But as a kid, I was all about it. Because he's like a JTT, you know?
Yeah.
for
Oh,
sure.
totally.
And I was like, nice boy. Now I'm like, boring.
I mean, he is a little bit boring. I mean, he is a little bit boring, but at the same time, it's like, is he? Because he's like literally a ghost.
And he like died as a kid. That's so sad.
Yeah, it's so sad.
But like, I don't want to.
That would be so
about it.
weird. I'm thinking about it like way too much now. I'm like, it would be so weird. Like, you kiss Devon Sawa and then he just turns into Casper again. You know what I mean? Like, how disappointing would that be?
He's very cartoonish as a ghost, too.
Yeah, he like literally just has he looks like a balloon with a body attached.
Fuzzy balloon. But also we talk about vibes a lot, right? Because it's really about vibes. Smash or pass those vibes. And it's a pass. It's a hard pass for me. Like, imagine him as an adult man. He'd be crying a lot.
Why? He'd be crying a lot?
He would. He'd be crying a lot.
That's
like,
funny.
he'd be a really sad guy. Dude,
I didn't really get like that. Like, I mean, obviously he wasn't happy about it.
Childlike. I mean, you know.
Yeah,
He wasn't happy about it.
yeah. He obviously wasn't happy about it, but I didn't think he was too whiny. If I was Christina Ricci in Casper, then it would be a smash for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, you only live once.
The dad, though.
The dad.
Not the dad. Christina Ricci's dad, though. I remember having a little like weird, not knowing how I feel. Like, why do I have a
you
crush
had a
on
dad
this guy?
crush on
Isn't it
Christina Ricci's dad?
Yeah, isn't it? What's his name? I always had a crush on him.
I don't remember.
From Independence Day.
Yeah.
And is it Bill Pullman?
Oh, I can't remember his name. Hold on.
He was vibes. I'm pretty sure that's who it is. Look it up.
I mean, his character arc is pretty dark. Do you remember that at all? Because I did.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't remember that. Bill Pullman.
Like I'm remember.
Yeah, Bill Pullman.
Pullman. Yeah.
Well, I didn't remember that he literally like gets drunk at the bar and then walks off a cliff and dies.
Yeah. I don't remember that specifically, but I remember it getting dark.
It got super dark. And then he turns into a ghost and then they bring him back to life with a special machine and the potion. So it all ends up working out okay.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that was really... Like, it got weird there for a second. I did not remember that. I love that you had a little kid dad crush on this guy. That's so funny.
Like always. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember that. I didn't have a crush on him.
Because he was also, he was in a lot of stuff. You've Got Mail. He was big. Where'd he go? He was in something, but anyway.
He's still alive, right?
Yeah.
His Bill
He was
Pullman's still
in,
alive.
yeah, he was just in, I didn't watch the second season, but it was on HBO, I want to say, or Netflix. Anyways.
Oh, wait,
it
he was
a
the
crazy
guy who was
show.
in The Sinner, right?
Yes, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah. I know he's in the second season of Sinner.
He was good in
Yeah.
that show. That show was good.
Yeah, I watched the first episode and I was like, oh, this is great. And then I stopped, just as I always do. Which I'll do with True Blood.
Yeah.
Oh, this is great. See you later.
Well,
Never.
you can't do that with True Blood because True Blood is a true testament of like it gets better as it goes. Like season 1 is definitely not its pinnacle.
Yeah. Well, it's just hard for me to watch stuff.
Oh, me too.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I get it.
We didn't even finish The Penguin the other night.
Oh, yeah.
An hour was too long.
Yeah. I know. We're finally watching The Fabulous Mrs. Maisel. And I really like it, but it's like Kaden at like the 40-minute mark is like, there's 20 minutes left. Like every time I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. We can't even make it through an hour now. Great.
We're just falling asleep. Like we can't finish it. And it's great. It's good.
Yeah. So is this show.
Yeah. But life.
Wait.
Oh, we're getting old.
Who plays the penguin? I don't remember.
Colin Farrell.
Oh, that's right.
And he does such a good job. It's crazy.
Cool.
how you can look like that and then do that, you know?
Yeah.
And he has the accent down, like the whole vibes. Not like good vibes, not Smash or Pass vibes, just like penguin vibes.
Yeah, totally.
He's doing a good job so far. I haven't even finished the first episode though, so don't hold me to that.
All right.
Well, I think we've kept them long enough. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, guys. Hopefully we amped you up a little bit for vampires this season.
Yep. Woohoo. I keep wanting to make vampire noises, but I don't think they make any noise at all. So we'll just be silent.
I was just picturing like the Sesame Street vampire. Doesn't he like count really slow?
Yeah. The count. Yeah.
Could you do his voice?
1, 2,
yeah, there you
3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah.
Goodbye.
It's Transylvania accent. All right. Well, thank you for our... I don't know. I lost it. Dang it. All right. Well, thank you anyways.
All right,
thank you guys for tuning in.
And we'll see you...
Subscribe, follow, all that.
Next Tuesday and...
Well,
Friday.
First, we'll see you Friday. Yeah, we'll see you Friday for the mini-sode. Be there, be square.
And then Tuesday.
Right.
And then Friday again.
And then Tuesday and then Friday. Forever. And ever. Well, for 4 weeks. Maybe 5. 5 weeks.
We can keep them here till 4.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Bye.